Weekly Mining News. Welcome to Australian Mining for New Starters, and as usual we'll cover the news, do the prices and then finish up on where the new starter jobs are. So to start with in the news, we will go to the big story. The Rio Tinto bosses have all fallen on their swords over the debacle that happened in the Pilbara with the destruction of the caves, indigenous caves with all the rock art on it. I personally don't think that they've gone far enough. I think that Rio should have that lease pulled on them, and that can be auctioned off to the highest bidder to pay for reparations for the damages that's happened to that site. It's just not acceptable, especially for someone that knows something about mining. If that's the area that you're protecting, there's no reason that you need to destroy all that. It's just ridiculous. So that's my views on what should happen to Rio. I think the WA government needs to send a clear message to them that it's completely unacceptable, and the best way to do that is to pull the lease. Now, in other news, BHP have made official what's been going on for the last couple of months now, which is they want all their workforce based in the state that the mine's based in. And this isn't just BHP. Pretty much every major mining company's doing that, and it's not just for WA. If your mine's in Queensland, they want you in Queensland. If your mine's in New South Wales, guess where they want you? New South Wales. The upshot of the story for this is that if you want to chase the mining job, you're going to have to be able to, or you're going to have to be prepared to relocate and going to be able to relocate to the state that the mine is in. Next, I just wanted to talk about a story that doesn't get a run in our general media very often, if not at all, and that's about how Australian hard rock underground mines are considered world's best practice, and the way that we mine is considered world's best practice. So we have, in the last 10 years, companies like Barminco, Ruck, Prybar, Burncut, to name just a few, that are running mines all around the world using Australian foremen, shift boss, jumbo operators to do it. And if you come over to Seek and have a look, you'll see lots of jobs like this come up if you have a look through all the pages. They're not after engineers or geos, they're actually wanting foremen, shift bosses and jumbo operators. And also bogger operators a lot of the time, and charge up as well. They want the people that actually physically run the mine. That's where Australia has an abundance of experience, and going back to this story, that's where the expat work comes into. And the reason that we are so sought after is because in WA they've got the Mining Act and regulations, and that's considered world's best practice. And under that act they have what's called a shift boss's ticket, or it's generally known as the shift supervisor's certificate of competency, but everybody just calls it a shift boss's ticket, and that's the WA government saying the person that holds that knows enough to run a mine. The WA shift boss's ticket has become a bit like an international de facto qualification, and that's what they're looking for all these underground jobs, especially the shift boss and the foreman jobs, but most of the jumbo jobs as well. They'll want somebody with a WA shift boss's ticket, and if you can do that, there's a lot of expat work around the world going, and they're making huge money on it. Some people are making between $20,000 and $30,000 a month, so that's something that you can look forward to if you get into the industry. How do you get your shift boss's ticket? You've got to do 5 years practical underground experience, and then you've got to pass the appropriate testing by the WA Mines Department. So lastly, I just wanted to talk a bit about copper. Copper's going into an upswing, so it's over 9,000 Australian a tonne, which is really good. So that means things are going ahead in a big way in underground mines around Mount Isa, and also in mines down in New South Wales around Cobar as well. So nickel's also pretty high, so that's having a big effect on the West Australian side of things, where all the nickel mines are located. So nickel's well and truly over $20,000 a tonne. As you can see, gold has maintained its price roughly from last week, $2,663 an ounce, which is a great price considering most of the operators, it's costing them under $1,200 to produce. Iron ore is back up again, and as I talked about last week, this has got more to do about the fact that Brazil's still shut down than anything else. And coal, unfortunately, is still around that $50 US a mark. So what can you do to get a job as a new starter? One of the things I thought we'd do in this section is to have a look at where the different mines are around the country, because you are going to have to relocate to get these jobs. So it's a good idea to have a look and know where they are. First off, I've just clicked in gold, and as you can see, there's lots in Western Australia, there's lots in northern Queensland around Charters Towers and also out around Mount Isa. And this also doubles up with copper mines, because a lot of the copper mines also have gold running with them, and it's the same way with some of the gold mines have got silver running with them. So, but when I say the west of New South Wales, I suppose looking at the map now, I really should be saying the middle of New South Wales, but to where all the coal fields are on this side here, it's definitely out to the west. And if you can see this big patch here, it's a big group of gold mines up there. There's a few in Victoria and a few down in Tasmania, and of course there's lots over here in WA. So if we have a look at copper next, you can see the one around Mount Isa again with the copper and the gold running together. Not so many. There's still a few copper mines down here in New South Wales that's probably also running with the copper, with the gold, and there's a few over here in WA. We have a look at nickel. You can see it's all based basically in WA, and they're reopening lots of mines down here around Kalgoorlie, so there'll be more dots appearing there shortly. Next, if we have a look at zinc, because zinc's an interesting one. Didn't realise until I did the news last week that we're the third biggest producer in zinc. And again, lots of it in North Queensland, and all these mines, all these metals that we're going through are all mined in the hard rock method. So they uses the same method for each and every one of these metals, whether it's in the open pit or the hard rock underground. And that's the method that the sponsors training teaches you. So if we have a look at lead, you can see again, there's a bit in the middle of New South Wales, lots up in northern Queensland, a little bit in Tasmania, and a couple of mines in WA. So the big ones are the gold and the copper and the nickel mines. They're the ones that are really hiring at the moment and the ones that you should look at. If you want to have a look, type underground into Seek, you'll see all the jobs come up. And if you're looking to get into the hard rock underground side of things, you're looking for the nipper and truck and off-siding roles. So Montera here in WA is looking for people at the moment. And like anything else, the more you know about it before you go, the better the chance you have of getting in. I'm going to do a video in future covering what goes on if you go in green, so not knowing anything. So I'll leave that till then. But needless to say, with a lot of these jobs, the reason why they're all up there is because they have a high turnover of new starters, and that basically comes down to people not knowing what's going to be expected of them. Now, if you don't want to have a go at hard rock underground, maybe you want to have a try on the surface off-siding. And as I've said before, off-siding on the surface is really good if you love camping. If not, maybe you should have a look at an underground off-siding gig, because that way you get to stay in the camp and dinner gets made for you and you get your own room and all that sort of wonderful stuff. Whereas if you go exploration out on the surface rigs, generally you're camping. So I hope you found that information helpful. And if you've got any more questions that you want to ask or you want answered, please send them through. And if you want to have a crack at getting into hard rock underground, then definitely check out the Intro to Underground Mining training from the sponsor. That's got all the information in there that you need. And if you could like and subscribe the channel. Thanks.